Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, and this is episode number 304. Once again, bring you all your filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you sports fans out there like you and me. And in this episode, we're here to talk about my San Francisco 49ers and rounding out the week that was for them and the upcoming week that will be as they prepare for another big Monday night matchup. And no, actually, this is their first Monday night matchup of the year, but there's still a big game for them regardless. So we're here to talk about that matchup and, of course, dissect a little bit about what happened this past week for them in their road game in Arizona. So, yeah, this is our 11th edition of the 49ers weekly roundup, their week in review in this 2025 campaign. And, yeah, this has been a rather weird campaign for them so far. But still a month or so to go in this season. So we're going to talk about it here in this episode. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe or follow me on social media. If you're watching this on the YouTube side of things, smash the subscribe button. If you're not, what are you waiting for? Hit the like button, comment down below, turn on the notification bell. And if you're listening to this on the audio side of things, make sure to rate and review the show and keep on listening, whether it's on Apple or Spotify. So with that being said, let's get right into talking about what has happened for my San Francisco 49ers in the last week or so. So week number 11, they're trying to bounce back from a pretty bad division loss. What was a very important division game against the LA Rams at home. But the rematch against them didn't go exactly as well as some hopeful people like myself was planning, as they got their butts whooped. They tried to stay in the fight, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case eventually. They got their asses handed to them. So they're going into another NFC West rematch this past week against the Arizona Cardinals, who also got their asses handed to them in the NFC West in their own rematch against Seattle. So they had a lot of things going for them as well and trying to get in the win column. And after coming off, a win 2 weeks ago against the Dallas Cowboys. So these teams were in desperate need of a win. But especially for the 49ers, if they wanted to at least stay alive in the playoff race. So looking at this game for my San Francisco 49ers, they got off to a very fast and probably their best start all year. Why did they get off to a very fast start? Well, you look at probably the best special teams play that they did in forever. Sky Moore returning the opening kickoff nearly to the end zone. I was screaming, go all the way, go all the way. Like, I didn't expect a kickoff return from this team to nearly go the distance, like nearly get a touchdown. It's like, get a touchdown, please get a touchdown, please get a touchdown. And they almost did until they got tackled near the one. So at least, CMC finished the job, but I was just screaming, go get a touchdown, go get a touchdown, go get a touchdown. But that was probably the best special teams job in forever. And wow, slowly but surely, dang, you look at this special teams unit from 1 year ago and to now. I mean, they're quietly doing a lot better. I mean, not just from a kicking standpoint, but from I'll say this, a returning standpoint. I mean, it's not horrific as it was last year, but they're a lot better than where they were to start the year from last year and where they are now. So after Arizona's opening drive where they had to punt, Brock Purdy, we got to see what he had to offer to the table. He didn't show a lot of ring rust at first on his first real drive. He had the two nice throws to Juwan Jennings, which he had more chemistry with than Mac Jones did. And then he threw a long bomb touchdown to George Kittle. And then just like that, the Niners had a very early 14-0 lead in with just 10 minutes to go in the first quarter. And Arizona was already in a big hole. 14 or no, it was 13-0, I believe, because I think Eddie Pinheiro missed an extra point. He had an extra point blocked. Or no, that was like later on, actually, after the 14-0 lead. But anyway, we'll talk on Eddie Pinheiro in a bit. Because, the offense did pretty well in this game. After that hot start, Brock Purdy did start to show some of that rust after being on the injury reserve for nearly 2 months. Not technically injury reserve, but he was, staying on the sidelines with that turf toe for almost 2 months. Yeah, the turf toe, which he said would be a season-long issue, even if it wasn't fully healthy. It would restrict him in the pocket. He would have jitters, get happy feet because of the shitty offensive line. And even when he had time to throw and when he would move around here and there, his throws were about 60-40. He was trying to make throws that just weren't there. It has been habitual last year too. He was trying to throw it in really tight windows, especially near or in the red zone. There were a couple of interceptable balls that Purdy was throwing, and fortunately, Arizona didn't catch them. But nonetheless, he still did what was important, and that was to reestablish that connection to Kittle, Juwan Jennings, Christian McCaffrey, Ricky Pearsall. He didn't really have a showing in this one, but I guess the more important thing was to make sure that he was, he was getting his feet wet too. And it seemed like he was on a snap count because he was barely on the field, from what I saw. So yeah, it was just making sure that for Purdy at least, it was reestablishing that connection. Staying on the offense, Kyle continued to float around with giving Brian Robinson Jr. more involved. And yeah, like I said last week and the week before, I like that. I really like what Kyle Shanahan is doing here, taking some of the load off of Christian McCaffrey to give him some rest. And as I said, the last 2 weeks, keep featuring him more, even though it didn't do much this week, even though it kind of didn't work this week. You still got to keep doing it. Give Christian McCaffrey some breaks in between drives. So yeah, I'm kind of liking this tandem of CMC and Brian Robinson Jr., who is finally showing up, who is finally getting a chance to show what he's got, and he's making the most of his opportunities. On the defensive side of the ball, they're still being sus because, you got no pass rush. Your Red Warner's gone, so, and then they also suffered more injury mania running wild. But they still, they're still trying to make plays across the board. Even when Renardo Green was being a dumbass in the first quarter, doing some weird shit with Trey McBride, and rightfully getting benched by both Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. So yeah, rightfully deserved. But for all their issues, like I said, like I mentioned earlier just a second ago, they made some nice plays in the second half. Diamador and Lenore intercepted a pass to set up Purdy's second touchdown to Kittle. Upton Stout forced a fumble on Elijah Hickens to prevent a touchdown by just a hair inch in the fourth quarter. So yeah, more importantly, for all the people calling his name on 49ers Twitter, Nick Martin, the linebacker. The linebacker that we drafted, day 2 or day 3? He finally got some playing time. He looked pretty decent in garbage time. And I'm not sure why they're not playing him next week, but hopefully they do. But eventually, we always say eventually, but he should have been playing next week. But yeah, Nick Martin finally got some playing time. So yeah, in defense though, it comes against a pretty bad and also pretty beaten up Arizona team. So yeah, for all their issues, and for all as sus as this defense was, this 49ers team shut down the Cardinals, and yeah, the offense also delivered in those areas as well to back them up. So it was a pretty balanced team effort against a very bad Arizona team. So yeah, other than Ronaldo Green being a dumbass, Diamador Lenore made some nice plays. They really locked down on Trey McBride, other than a couple of plays. And there was a few other plays where they let Michael Wilson loose because they let Jacoby Brissett throw for over, what was it, nearly 500 yards. But that half of that came over garbage time. But other than that, the defense held its own against Arizona's beaten up offense. Looking at Eddie Pinheiro for a bit, it was kind of an off game for him since signing back in week 2. He got an extra point blocked, and then he missed one outright. But then he went on to make all of his field goals since that point. So for Eddie Pinheiro, it was a weird game for him, and the kicker for that, no pun intended, is an unfortunate one, by the way. He received a hamstring injury somewhere along the way. They didn't mention it where he suffered it, but it was very notable that he wasn't doing the kickoffs in the fourth quarter. The Niners went for 2 very late in the game, and then the sideline interviewer mentioned that Eddie Pinheiro suffered a hamstring injury somewhere in the fourth quarter. So that was one of our more successful kickers, not named Jake Moody, because he sucked. Yeah, he suffered an injury, as if the Niners didn't need any more injuries. Great. Yes, great. But yeah, that's unfortunate, and the Niners are going to need a new one, as if they didn't need any more major injuries. But all in all, I mean, it was a nice win for the 49ers. Granted, again, it was against beaten up Cardinals team. But yeah, nice bounce back win. But I'll give my another brief final thoughts on this win for the Niners. But let's talk about the Cardinals side of things. After they got a touchdown on their first quarter possession, the entire team couldn't really do much on both sides of the ball. They were making the plays on offense on the 49ers' own beaten up defense, but the theme of the day for Arizona was just like last week's: mistakes. This week they made 16 penalties. That was 16 too many. That undid them, and those penalties were pretty critical. It undid a lot of progress that this team was. It would have made it a close game, but no. There's whenever they were making either a big drive or, in the biggest case, Bam Knight, one of the backup running backs, he made a big touchdown run. That was erased by a holding call early in the third quarter that would have shifted the momentum in favor of Arizona. It made an even closer game, but no, a holding call. And then Arizona had to punt. And then the score went up even bigger. The Niners would answer with the touchdown. And then, the score went up. And then before halftime, Calais Campbell tipped Eddie Pinheiro's long field goal, but then he was flagged for illegally leveraging himself. And then that paved the way for Pinheiro to do a retry, and then he hit the retry. So, it was pretty much the theme. Mistakes. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. A usually solid front four that included Campbell and Josh Sweat. They barely got to Brock Purdy. They only got him once, and they couldn't stop Christian McCaffrey on the run. Their run defense was really bad in this game. And then in the passing defense, even with Max Milton back in the secondary, they got torched. They got torched like burnt waffles in a toaster, or when you overcook the pancakes. It was not great pass defense for Arizona, just like last week against the Seahawks. And it got worse when Garrett Williams left the game with an injury. So in general, the defense was not great, but the worst indicator of all for this team was the offense. Sure, Jacoby Brissett had some nicely timed balls, but he also threw 2 interceptions that undid that. One to Diamador Lenore, and that furthered the gap for Arizona. He did hit Trey McBride with a tight window touchdown throw, but as with last week in Seattle, it came way too late for this Cardinals team. So yeah, they're essentially doing a lot of their offensive stat padding way too late in the fourth quarter. And like I said, they could have narrowed the gap in the scoreboard on the game had Pharaoh Brown not been called for holding. So unfortunately, yeah, that big rushing touchdown pretty much undone. So yeah, the game was done by pretty much essentially early in the fourth quarter. The Niners won that one 41-22. So when you look at this win for the San Francisco 49ers, much needed bounce back win for them, and a good reset win for Brock Purdy to get his sea legs back after missing nearly 2 months. He did look rusty at times with his throws and then his decision making. But again, he made some good throws to George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, and he also made some decent decisions. Purdy threw for 3 touchdowns, and then Christian McCaffrey got the hat trick, the 3 touchdowns very late in the game. The defense, although they still sucked in this game, allowing nearly 500 yards to Jacoby Brissett of all people, but more than half of that came in garbage time. So that's something I guess you can pat your back on. But Diamador Lenore and Upton Stout made the 2 biggest plays of the game, which prevented this game from being even closer than imaginable. And also, Arizona's self-inflicted penalties also helped, I guess. But still, their tackling, their coverage, pretty much the entirety of their defensive issues remains a big issue. Of course, though, it wouldn't have been a week without injuries after a week with not any injuries. Tatum Bethune, Robert Beal Jr., and again, Eddie Pinheiro, they left the game scathed. They left with injuries. Eddie Pinheiro, the biggest red flag of all in this game. So yeah, even after this game, yeah, he's essentially been ruled out for next week. But here's hoping the hamstring injury is not as serious. Hopefully he doesn't have to miss too many games. So for the Arizona Cardinals, the silver lining is that while Trey McBride was the focal point of the offense, Michael Wilson made the most of his opportunities in what was a depleted supporting cast. No Marvin Harrison Jr., no Zay Jones because he's gone for the season with the torn Achilles. Michael Wilson, he had a good day, going for over 100 receiving yards and very wide open for Jacoby Brissett very often. So it wasn't always about Trey McBride in this one, but that's about it, however, because Arizona was getting torched very often in this game from start to finish, like the very start, by a 49ers offense that got its starting quarterback back, and they were coming off a very poor loss, just like Arizona. And Arizona did have its chances to try and make it a game, but like I said, 16 penalties, 2 interceptions, and an untimely pickpocket by Upton Stout is pretty much gonna kill you into a loss, and a very mostly self-inflicted loss. That last thing I mentioned was just very untimely, like I said. But Jacoby Brissett still looks very decent in place of Kyler Murray, but a lot of the offense that he runs, and all the scores, the stat padding, the momentum that he produces on offense, again, it just comes in way too late, and at some point, the results got to come in much faster. Those scores need to come in the first, the second, like it just can't come in the fourth quarter, like where's that kind of effort against a team like the Cowboys? Where's that effort? I don't know where it is with Arizona. Maybe teams are starting to figure that out. So we'll see when they play the Jaguars next week. So as for the 49ers' next opponent, as I mentioned at the top of the show, they have a very important game, and it's on the bright lights of Monday Night Football to close out week number 12 as they take on the Carolina Panthers. And yeah, they also have something to play for. So for the Carolina Panthers, they were in a divisional rematch as well, taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers previously beat the Falcons in week 3, shutting them out 30-0. But this time around, it was a much tighter contest down in Atlanta. Bryce Young played one of his best career games, if not his best, overcoming a brief injury scare to lead the Panthers into a key season sweep of the Falcons for an overtime win, 30-27. The stat board will say 3 touchdowns, over 400 yards. But yeah, Bryce Young, I'd say when you look at the highlights, the actual game film, Bryce Young actually made some pretty good passes. He made some pretty good decisions in this game. But the biggest play of that game and the best pass of that game was Young finding his tight end, Tommy Tremble, who took a mid-ranger and took it near the red zone to set up that game-winning kick by Ryan Fitzgerald. So this Panthers team, for as inconsistent as it is, as I talked about in the previous episode, they are just a half game back behind the Tampa Bay Bucks, who are struggling in the NFC South. So this game is very much important for the Panthers as it is for the 49ers. So yeah, this is must-win game for both of these teams. For the 49ers, it's to keep their playoff hopes alive, to stay in the wild card race, and then for as much as I'm not sure how it is, but I mean for the Panthers though, this is very important for them because they got to win this game, and then they have to hope prior to the day before the Bucks lose to the Rams on Sunday Night Football, because if they win this game, the Panthers they'll be tied with them going into this. They'll be tied with them coming out of this game. So look at some of the players to watch going into Monday Night Football. On the Panthers side of things, you look at the duo of the running back Rico Dowdle, who pretty much everyone thought was running the offense, was the star on the offense, and he still essentially is for the most part. Rico Dowdle has really picked things up as the lead running back with his elusiveness, his decision making, his speed. Taking over the lead back role over Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, that was the name I was trying to look for. And yeah, essentially trying to hide Bryce Young's deficiencies. Bryce Young has been the wild card though. Although I don't think he's the long-term answer, even though the Panthers drafted him at number 1 overall in 2023. And yeah, the Panthers have tried to give him some help, even though some of that help has not been great. Bryce Young has made a lot of errors, but and this year has been about inconsistency for him and this offense, but mainly about him. But as I said, we don't know which version you're going to be getting out of Bryce Young, and I don't know which version we're going to be getting out of Bryce Young. So if we get the version that played last week against Bryce Young, that is going to be a real danger for the 49ers. But if we're going to be getting the Bryce Young that we saw, something like that doesn't play as well, like early season Bryce Young, then maybe that's something the 49ers can capitalize on. Meanwhile, for my San Francisco 49ers, obviously Brock Purdy. This is just his second game back, coming off the nearly 2-month layoff. But he did play very solid to pretty good in that game against Arizona in his return. So we'll have to monitor how he'll be in this game against Carolina. And then the run defense, you got to watch for Rico Dowdle in this game, because he has a possibility of lighting you up, because, well, the run defense is just piss poor at this point, because, well, who do you got for the 49ers? Look at the injury report for both of these teams. For the Carolina Panthers, they could be without their two starting linebackers. Actually, they're already going to be down one of their starting linebackers at the time of this recording. Christian Roseboom, not expected to play with the hamstring injury, according to the coach, Dave Canales. He's not expected to play with a hamstring injury. He suffered that in last week's game in Atlanta. And the other starting linebacker, Trayvon Wallace, he is still not expected to play. I mean, like he is expected to play. I'd say he's 50-50 with the knee injury after missing the Falcons game. So I don't have that final word yet. I mean, not from my source. I don't have a source, but according to Dave Canales. But anyway, Bryce Young, despite the two ankle injury scares in Atlanta, he fully practiced this week. So all steams ahead for Bryce Young to start on Monday night. For my San Francisco 49ers, there's a lengthy injury report, injury news, not in regards to the actual injury report, but there were some notables in this one, especially with Brandon Ayuk. His practice window is again not going to be open this week. So again, we come to the realization of either practice window is going to open very late in the season, or it's not opening at all. And if it's not going to open at all, then my assumption is being that the 49ers are probably holding him out to maybe trade his ass. Maybe that's food for thought. Anyway, another receiver, Jacob Cowings, his practice window, it will be opened after the bye week in 2 weeks' time. So, hey, the more reinforcements we get, the better in the receiving game. And Jacob Cowings was one of those receivers last year that started to come up a little bit decent late in the year last year, when we were all running through injury mania and that Super Bowl cursed hangover loss, whatever you name it. As I mentioned, Eddie Pinheiro expected to miss this game, and maybe the game against Cleveland and maybe the game against Tennessee after the bye. He injured his hamstring, obviously, as I mentioned. And then they went through tryouts, and then they managed to get a temporary kicker in Matt Gay. Make that what you will with all the jokes like ha ha he he. But anyway, Matt Gay, he was recently released by Washington. And so there's no bye week for him yet, because while Washington is on a bye right now, Matt Gay was actually recently released by the Commanders for missing two kicks in that Madrid game recently. So Matt Gay is still on assignment for us. Tatum Bethune is the new green dot linebacker in place of Fred Warner, is expected to miss this one in a few with a high ankle sprain that he got in the second quarter. Robert Beal Jr., who also left the game in the second quarter, he's in the concussion protocol and will have to pass the concussion protocol if he wants to play in this one. And then some positive news: Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall, they were fully practicing in the last day, and as we're recording this past day, which is coming out later, which is good news to hear, that there are no setbacks and they should be good to go, barring any setbacks for Monday. So looking at the keys to victory for both of these teams, for Carolina, you gotta get your pass rush going, because there's barely any pass rush right now. So you gotta, with this crappy 49ers offensive line, you got to find some production within your front four, let alone your front seven. So if you want to get to the quarterback, or if you want your defense to have a chance out there, especially with your back seven doing somewhat kind of okay, especially with JC Horn out there, one of your top corners, and you gotta get some pressure on the quarterback. Bryce Young, on the offensive side of things, he's got to play like he did against Atlanta. You can't go out there, be inconsistent like you were. You can't have the Bryce Young that played against the Saints the week prior, before he went lights out against Atlanta. So you can't have that kind of Bryce Young. that he played against New Orleans. You got to have the Bryce Young that played against the Falcons that went lights out, balls to the walls, as if his season was on the line. And he played pretty well with a 3 touchdown game, over 450 yards, and made the big plays to get that season sweep over at the Falcons. Meanwhile, for my San Francisco 49ers, you got to have a run defense. You got to get a run defense going, limit Rico Dowdle's opportunities, force the spotlight on Bryce Young. It's kind of counterintuitive, but you, even though you got to force the spotlight on Bryce Young, you also have to get pressure on Bryce Young. You can't let him make those big plays. You can't let him. You can't give him enough time to make those big plays. You got to get after him very fast. And I know that's a big ask because, well, just like with the Panthers, there is no pass rush. So, yeah, you have to get after him. So, yeah, for the 49ers, just get after him. And then on the offensive side of things, it is just a second game back also. You got to give Ricky Pearsall more snaps. You got to give him more targets, and Ricky Pearsall also has to make the most out of them as well. So you got to get Ricky Pearsall more involved in the passing game. So hopefully Brock Purdy can go back to his tried and true receivers as well. In a game where I kind of expect it to be a little bit of a shootout because both teams' defenses are kind of garbage in this point of the season. So yeah. As we transition to the end of this episode, this is going to be a big must-win game for both of these teams. And like I said, it could be a shootout game or maybe a low-scoring game, depending on how you look at it. If you get 2 very inconsistent quarterback play, or maybe you can get a shootout where both teams they can't defend their quarterbacks. They can't. They can't get to the quarterback, and then it just goes balls to the walls, anything. So, it can be anything goes in this one. But the most important thing to take away is that, the stakes are high in this one. For the Carolina Panthers, you win this game, you're essentially tied, or you still remain a half game back, or you take the lead in the NFC South. Whatever happens with the Tampa Bay Bucks on Sunday night, the day prior, against the LA Rams. Regardless, you're still in the division race. For the 49ers, if they win this game, they keep their playoff hopes alive. But should they lose this game, their playoff hopes don't take a dip, quite yet. They have to be careful because coming up the week after is a trip to Cleveland where they've had trouble. They've had a good amount of trouble playing in Cleveland. Even though Cleveland is a bad team, the 49ers have always had trouble playing against the skid marks in the land of the skid marks. So this is a win that they have to get before going to the land of the skid marks in short rest before the bye week. So this game is essential for both teams, and I expect it to be one of the other, as I mentioned, either a low scoring affair or a complete shootout because their defenses are hard cabal. So let me know your thoughts on this game coming up on Monday night. Yes, we have to wait, us Niners fans and Panthers fans too, for this game to take place on a Monday. But hey, that means I get to enjoy my Sunday just chilling, watching the games before waiting for Monday to see my game. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on how the 49ers will do or won't do in this big Week 12 matchup against the Carolina Panthers at home under the bright lights of Monday night. Let's have a conversation about it on YouTube or slide into the DMs on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna. And let's hope that the Niners win this one, regardless of any playoff implications or anything of that sort. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna, signing off on episode number 304. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge. And will be bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports in the next episode, in every episode, and like I did with this one. But until then, until that next episode comes around, peace out.